And here is our moderator, Mary Ellen Summerlin.
Thank you and welcome to this forum. We had the coin toss and Kenneth Wilkie won it and chose to go second. So the format will be this. Each candidate will make a 2-minute opening statement. Then the questions will go to both candidates. We'll take turns going first after the first introductory statements. And then at the end, there'll be a summary statement of 1 minute from each candidate. So please be thinking about your questions, send them in, but make sure that they are not pointed, trying to make a point that you don't quite say, or hostile, or only limited to one candidate. And I know that's a little tricky. We've reworded a couple of them because one of our candidates is an incumbent and when one is a challenger. So the one who's a challenger can't answer what's happened this last year or this last few years. So we tried to reword the question so that we get at the heart of the purpose of that question, but make it where both candidates can equally answer. So we'll begin with Mr. Garza. He'll have 2 minutes to make his introductory statement.
Hello, my name is Angel Garza, and I welcome this opportunity to speak to you about my candidacy for the office of Constable Precinct 3. I currently serve as your constable, and I'm here today to respectfully ask for your vote and your support to allow me to continue to serve. Why I'm seeking this position is because I want to be involved in the community and also to serve the people. I was born and raised in Kerrville, great city to be a part of. My family's been here for 3 generations, wonderful community, gave me a sense of belonging. I always wanted to be in law enforcement, and so what I did is I made the decision to pursue that. And, so, help me here. So, I'm proud to say that I have 22 years of public service serving in law enforcement officer here in Kerr County. 5 of those years, I served as a reserve deputy sheriff with the Kerr County Sheriff's Office. In the past 16 plus years, as your constable. I feel that it's very important, that the public safety and the quality of life of this community is something I want to be a part of. As far as constable, I feel that I have the most qualified candidate because I have a record of 16 years of service serving as your constable. I have a Master Peace Officer certification. My priorities have always been the public safety of the citizens of Kerr County, and that's just what I've always wanted to do, is to work here in Kerr County, my home, my community. I just want to say that I want to be here. I want to continue serving you, and that's what I have to say for right now. I'm a little nervous, but hey, it happens.
Thank you. First off, I'd like to thank the League of Voters for having me here today and having this forum, and I'd like to thank everybody for attending. I'd also like to thank my wife, endless support, and my children, and my 6 grandchildren, soon to be 8, and all my friends. My name's Kenneth Wilkie. I'm running for the Kerr County Constable in Precinct 3. For the last 25 years, I've worked in public safety, and every day I go to work and I do just that. I work public safety. I work crimes. I work with other agencies. I pursue criminals. I work with judges in the county, municipal, the JP, and the district courts. I'm currently working for the Kerrville Police Department, and I supervise 4 individuals who work in the investigative side of the police department. It's a proactive unit. We go after criminals and we make cases on them. We prioritize them and we make cases on them so that they don't commit crimes against this public. Prior to working at the police department, I worked at the fire department for 7 years. The fire department is a great service, and we here in Kerrville are just blessed, I should say, because we have devoted public servants who are ready to come in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I'm running for the constable's position because I work every day and I will continue to do that. and I'll work hard for you to preserve the peace and to protect the community. I appreciate everyone coming here again today, and thank you.
Let's see, are there questions? I'm thinking maybe we'll start with the more general ones, and I think there are a few the league prepared. And I'll kind of sort them out to go together. Here is something that I should have said at the beginning. I looked up on the Texas Association of Counties for a job description of the constable. And the duties of the constable are listed this way: serves as a licensed peace officer, and performs various law enforcement functions, including issuing traffic citations. Serves warrants and civil papers, such as subpoenas and temporary restraining orders. And serves as the bailiff for the Justice of the Peace Court. The state law provides that a constable has to do 18 hours of continuing education in addition to his peace officer certification. So, let's start with this one, and we'll start with Mr. Garza. What in your background qualifies you for this position?
Well, my background is in law enforcement is I have 1,875 hours of training to the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. I have served as your constable for 16 years here in Kerr County. My main duties and functions is the civil process of the Justice of the Peace Court. That is our main function. As a one-man office, I devote my duties to carry out and execute the proper service of those papers, the civil and criminal papers of the office.
Mr. Wilkie.
Would you repeat the question?
What in your background qualifies you for this position? And I guess we sort of heard about your professional background, but is there more you'd like to
Oh, there's a lot more.
amplify?
I have countless hours of training both on the job and in the classroom. I have countless hours of working and making cases on criminals. I'm going to closer to the microphone. Is that better? Louder? Okay. And I've attended all areas of both fire and police in the public safety area, worked those areas. I've got 7 years in the fire and 18 years in the police department. My opportunities in the police department have allowed me to work with the sheriff's department, the Kerrville Police Department, and other agencies such as constables here, and the game wardens, the FBI, the DEA, Homeland Security, and that on-the-job experience and those opportunities are what my credentials are and what make me a good candidate.
This question will begin with you, Mr. Wilkie. What court issues drive the workload for this position?
The JP Court.
It's the JP Court's the only one you work for, right?
Well, I mean, basically, the constable is responsible as the bailiff for the JP Court.
Right.
The constable is responsible for serving those documents from those courts as well as other courts to the Precinct 3 area. And that's basically it. It's a number of documents. But all those documents are documents that are created by the court in those plaintiff court proceedings or through the judge. And then it's that constable's responsibility to deliver those. And
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Garza, how would you respond to that question? What court issues drive the workload for this position?
The civil process mainly is, in our court is, we deal with the civil process, lawsuits, evictions, subpoenas, the truancy court, and as the constable, it's my duty to serve those papers in a timely manner. And so that's what we deal with. Warrants, we deal with Class C misdemeanors. So as per the warrants, my duties are to go out and have compliance from the violators to the court. And by that I mean I try to meet with the violators to contact the court and to clear up their warrants and pay their fines, so be in compliance with the court. But that's mainly what we deal is we civil matters. We are law enforcement officers, but our main function is serving the civil process out of the JP courts.
Thank you. This question will begin with Mr. Garza. What ethical perspectives are needed to serve in this position, in your opinion?
Be honest, to be on duty, to be aware that the public is there to be served. And I just feel like, as a constable, all these past years, I think I've approached it in a manner that I've always seen. I wanted to respect people and to have their dignity. And when I approach people and when I carry out the papers, it's always in a manner that I want to show that the respect to them and respect for me, because it's a safety issue. It's always about, you know, just respect for the people and how we approach them.
Thank you. Mr. Wilkie, how would you respond to that?
I would say that the constable needs to have the highest ethical standards, and he does need to be honest. And he needs to listen to what's going on in his community, and he needs to work to preserve that peace in that community, as well as work as a bailiff. He needs to work in the capacity of a peace officer. He needs to protect all of your communities and be available to you all 24 hours, 7 days a week. That's it.
The next question, we'll start with you, Mr. Wilkie. What have you done to help control the narcotic problem in Kerr County? And maybe we should broaden that a little bit. What do you see the constable's role in the narcotics problem in Kerr County?
That's a great question. I see the constable's role in that. First off, let me say that that's a lot of what I do on a day-to-day basis with 4 investigators, as well as the entire Kerrville Police Department and the Sheriff's Department. We spend a lot of our days going after those people who are not only users, but mainly the sellers and distributors of illegal narcotics. We don't want that in our community, and we do everything we can to keep them out of our community and to make cases on them.
Thank you. Mr. Garza,
Well, as far as, question again?
what have you done to help control the narcotic problem in Kerr County? What's the constable's role in that?
My role I see is one of just being visible in the community where I live and patrol. As the constable, our main function, ladies and gentlemen, is the civil and criminal process out of the court. Being a one-man office, my focus is to work with the court and all the papers that come out of that. I have to devote my duties and attention to that. You know, all law enforcement in Kerrville has a mission and a purpose. You have your sheriff's office, your city police, your state officers. Your sheriff's office, they're responsible for the safety and calls for service out in the incorporated areas. And your city police officers, they have this, the duty and safety to provide the duty and safety for the citizens in the city. Your state officers, you have your highway patrol, you have your game wardens. They're involved in game laws and protecting our state, local, and federal highways. So my focus is the business of the court.
Thank you. Question 5, we'll start with you too. What is your main goal as Constable of Precinct 3?
To do a good job and serve the people of my community as I have been for the last 16 plus years. As a constable, I try to be, you know, available and answer questions of my constituents. I feel I've done that. It's one of those situations where, you know, as a one-man office, my focus is what comes out of that office, you know, the civil process and what have you. So as a one-man office, like I said, I'm telling you, I'm trying to do the best job I can because I want to focus on the job, the office. That's my main concern.
What about you, Mr. Wilkie? What's a goal?
My main goal for the constable's office is going to also answer part of the previous question. And that is that I'm going to expand on the duties of that office. I'm going to work with agencies like the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department to make cases on criminals, as well as work for the court system, as well as serve as bailiff. I believe that there are a lot of hours there in the constable's position where me, a police officer, any constable being a police officer, has a duty to work in his precinct as well as the county and to assist and ensure that you have and live in a safe community. That's what the constable's responsible for, and that's what I intend to do as a constable, expand on all of that.
That makes a good lead into this next question, I think. How many and what kind of cases does a constable present to the criminal prosecution? And in your case, in your mind, is the current caseload appropriate?
You mean the current caseload that I have or the current case?
Of the constable of Precinct 3.
I don't think that currently there is what I would consider an acceptable caseload. Ask me the question again.
How many and what kind of cases does a constable present for criminal prosecution
Okay, well, first off,
in a year?
as a police officer, a constable can present any case, whether it be to JP court in the county, to the county court, or to the district court. That could be the 198th in Kerr County, and that could be the 216th. It could be anything from a misdemeanor to a felony. It's all about whether or not that constable is going to go out and make those cases and work. And that's it.
Mr. Garza, how would you respond to that?
Question again, please?
How many and what kind of cases does the constable's office present to the for criminal prosecution in a year?
In a year, well,
And do you think that's about, that the current rate is appropriate?
well, as far as criminal cases, mainly our office handles, just as the peace handles Class C misdemeanors, which are normally traffic offenses. And that's what I deal with. When we have warrants of arrest, my job is to go out and find the violators. And basically what I try to do is I try to get them to pay the fines and clear up their cases with the court. So I don't make cases. My job, like I said, as a one-man office, is a civil process and to also work with the warrants to clear them up out of the JP court. And we have a program now where the court has sent out pre-warrant notices. And what I've done is I've gone to the people and presented the warrants, and I've explained to them to take care of their warrants and clear them up before it goes to an arrest warrant where they can go to jail. So I try to work with people. It's not about, putting them in jail, I try to get people to comply with the orders of the court.
This next question seems to follow up. How many arrests does the constable make in a year? And is that consistent over the years?
As constable, I've made few arrests. And the reason why is because I try to contact people on the arrest warrants that I come out of our court. I try to have them to comply, It's better to have them comply with the court, to pay their fines than to put them in jail. Because you put them in jail, what happens? They're sitting there, they're taking up space, they're taking up taxpayer dollars. If I can get them to pay their fines, convince them to contact the court and pay their fines and make plans with the court to take care of their offense, I think it's better for both parties. They don't go to jail. Most people, I ask them, you have a job, right? Can you afford to sit in jail? Why don't you just contact the court and see if they'll work with you and take care of this matter? And that way, you save space in the jail. Nobody, it's not taking up taxpayer dollars, and they've complied with the court order.
Mr. Wilkie,
Ask the question again, please.
how many arrests does the constable make in a year? And do you think that's an appropriate rate?
Okay, I don't currently believe that the constables are making the appropriate arrest amount. I personally arrest hundreds a year and assist with those arrests and countless arrests. And the reason that I arrest, and I don't always arrest, so don't get me wrong, there are those people out there who made a mistake, didn't know they received notice, and I listen. I don't just arrest somebody and put them in jail. I want to understand the whole situation. So when I do make an arrest, I usually evaluate what's going on. But the arrest warrant is an order from the judge. You shall make that arrest. If you do not, you're in defiance of that order from that judge. So, therefore, I typically arrest, though sometimes judges or show some leniency. And I arrest because if I don't put them in jail, they'll continue to commit those crimes.
Thank you. This is question number 8, I think. Anyway, it's time for Mr. Wilkie to be the first responder. This is kind of a long one. Tell us about your experience in the following areas: number of papers served, miles driven on patrol, traffic citations issued, drug citations issued, community activities.
Okay, would you repeat that, please?
Number of papers served, miles driven on patrol, traffic citations issued, drug citations issued, and community activities.
And you want to know what I'm involved with, or?
That's right.
that I'm involved in that?
You know, if it makes more sense to go on a monthly basis or a weekly basis, the questioner doesn't specify.
I'm constantly involved in some type of community effort within Kerrville or the surrounding area. As far as drug citations, we don't issue citations for drugs. We issue citations for drug paraphernalia. That's a Class C offense. We can, but we typically arrest because those people that are typically in possession of that drug paraphernalia are committing other crimes like theft, shoplifting, you name it, they're doing it, okay? So I don't typically show leniency there and I make the arrest, but I do show leniency when appropriate. As far as traffic citations, I'm currently a sergeant. I can write a ticket, but I usually have somebody come there and write the ticket for me. Miles driven, countless. I travel to the border area, Uvalde, San Antonio, Austin, and all areas around the Kerrville area and the state of Texas in the pursuit of the criminal because my chief says I can.
The question wants to know about miles driven on patrol. Maybe you don't patrol right now, but if you were constable, what would be your goal for for spending time in patrol?
Miles would not be a designated number for me. I would cover my territory, which is Precinct 3, and assist any and everyone else that needed it. So there is no answer to the amount of miles.
And then I don't think we've covered the number of papers served. I think the questioner is wanting to know how big that load is.
Papers
if you
served?
can estimate.
It could be countless. It's self-initiated. You can go get a variety of papers, whether it's the writs out of the constable's office or the warrant arrest out of the constable's office. It could be endless. So I can't answer that question either.
Okay. Mr. Garza, how would you handle this question? I know it's complicated. First, they want to know, the framework is, tell us about your experience in the following areas. They want to know about the number of papers served.
Papers, it depends on the office. You know, Precinct 3 is usually a busy office. It varies. We turn in monthly reports to the Commissioner's Court every month. It depends. Sometimes we serve 10, 15, 20, 30 papers a month. It varies, sometimes even less. Our court also has the our court mainly deals with a lot of the truancy issues in our county. So as the constable, I serve a lot of the truancy papers out in the county to the residents and what have you. It varies, you know. It depends on people want to file cases, with the civil cases. That's where he goes. And as far as the the criminal aspect of it, say warrants where that would be involved, traffic citations and what have you, you know, I do write tickets on it, but I try to basically, you know, just give out warnings because, yeah, I try to, you know, basically teach, you know, lack of a better word, teachable moment. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Excuse me. Excuse me. You get to answer first on this next question. Have you ever refused to perform any of your statutorily required duties?
No, I don't think so. I've attended the courts every time a court's been in session. You know, I do my duties. You know, I bailiff. All the paperwork that I have, I serve it in a timely and professional manner. I've always done my job. I've never had any issues with citizens. No one has ever complained or come to me or to the office complaining about me having a lack of duties or performing my duties.
Mr. Wilkie, have you ever refused to perform any of your required statutorily required duties?
The answer is no, and I know so. I've never refused any duties whatsoever in law enforcement.
This is the last question that I have. Oh, here comes some more. Good. This is another rather specific one, and it begins with Mr. Wilkie this time. What have you done, or what are you going to do as constable about the rise in theft, specifically burglaries in the area?
Well, there are a lot of things that we as law enforcement police officers can do. Thefts typically occur in those areas that are not patrolled or when the public is at work, and criminals usually go after easy crime locations. And as constable, I'll continue to do the same thing that I'm already doing, and that is I patrol day and night. You may not know it, but a lot of times I'm out patrolling until 3, 4, 6 a.m. in the morning. I go after the criminal. There are other things I can do, techniques I could tell you about, but then I would give you my method and means, and I don't want to tell you all those secrets. But I also have a huge network of informants, people that call me, talk to me, because I listen. And that's very important in law enforcement. People trust law enforcement, and they want to talk to them, and they want to tell them about crime. And all you have to do most of the time is listen.
What have you done or are you planning to do about the rise in theft, specifically burglaries, in our area?
What I do is I patrol my area. I patrol the back roads of my county. You know, Harson-Winkle Road, Lane Valley Road, there's various areas of this county that I patrol daily. And I have been. I've always done that. And, you know, I know a lot of people out in the county, and they know me and they respect me. And they know I'm out there patrolling my areas. I want to be visible. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, all law enforcement in this county has a function, you know, and a mission. And my main mission is service of the civil process and criminal civil process in our county. That's my main function, duty being as a one-man office. But I do work in the evenings. A lot of times in civil process, I don't want to go to people's jobs to serve the papers. I try to get them in the evenings, but I'm always out and about.
The next question begins with you. What role does the constable have in human trafficking? Because Kerrville's located on I-10, and we know human traffickers use I-10.
Well, you know, like I said, I don't have the expertise in that, you know. My expertise is in the civil process and the duties of the office of constable. I leave that to other law enforcement officers like Kenneth that have that experience and training. You know, if you're out in the county, who patrols the highway? Most of the time the highway is the highway patrol. You know, game laws, you have game wardens. You know, in constables, our main function to exist in this era is to be the law enforcement and the judicial officers for the Justice of the Peace Court. Our main duties is to help the Justice of the Peace Court with their civil process.
Mr. Wilkie, what role could the constable have in human trafficking, if any?
Okay, first off, I'm going to reiterate, police officers, constables are police officers. That is their role. Human trafficking is one of the top 5 crimes in the United States. It's very serious. And as a peace officer, it is your duty to go after those people who traffic in humans, whether it's illegal aliens, slave labor, or anything near that, okay? And any police officer can get involved with that. But you have to get out and talk to people. You have to know your constituents, your businesses. You have to talk to them. People will tell you everything you want to know about your community, all the things you don't know, if you merely listen and ask.
The next question will go to you first, Mr. Wilkie. Other than just performing all duties responsibly, what would you specifically do above and beyond or to execute those duties more efficiently?
Of the constable's office?
Yes.
I do everything to the best of my ability. There is no one thing. I don't slack off. When it comes to crime and serving as a police officer for this community, I do everything to the greatest degree, and I demand that.
Mr. Garza, other than just performing all duties responsibly, what would you specifically do above and beyond or to execute those duties more efficiently?
Well, basically, to earn the people's respect, I serve the people in this position, and people know me, and I want to earn the respect, and that's just what it's all about. I am a law enforcement officer, but I try to be one, I try to help people out. It's not about arrest and putting them in jail. My way of handling this position is to just be there for the people, to do the job in a professional and courteous manner, and that's why I've always done it for this past 16 years. And I think the people of my community have seen that and supported me doing that, and that's the way I want to continue to do it.
The next question goes to you first. How many felony cases have you filed in the last 15 years?
I've filed no felony cases because, like I said, my primary duties and function and what I wanted to do and focus on is the business of the constable office is the service of the civil process out of the office. Our duties are various and many. We are police officers, but as a one-man office, all the constables in Kerr County are one-man offices. Most of us deal with just the business of the court. I can only speak for myself, but I don't know if any of the other constables have ever filed any felony cases in this county in the past 15 years. I don't know. I mean, maybe they have, but I'm not aware of that. And if they have, that's good for their office. But my concentration is the business of serving the court and the judge, and serving the court,
Mr. Wilkie, how would you respond to that question? I guess, well, it'd be interesting to know how many felony cases you filed with the police department, but I think probably the questioner is getting at your goals as constable.
Okay, my involvement with felony cases and any law enforcement officers could be as simple as a felony warrant arrest, but I've made countless felony cases in district courts. I don't know how many to be exact. I don't keep track of them. It's not about scores for me. It's about making an impact on this community. I don't arrest everyone. It's not about the arrest. It's about the impact, the welfare, and the safety of this community. I've had people that I have arrested who have been prosecuted, gone to jail countless times, call me and thank me that they went to jail and that they've changed, or that they've recovered, or that I worked with them, or that I allowed them to work as a CI, and then they went to some type of rehabilitation center. It's not always black and white in law enforcement. It's about understanding, it's about humanization.
The next question should begin with you, Mr. Wilkie. Is it true that most of the arrest warrants issued in the JP's court have been given to the sheriff's office to serve?
I believe that's true. but I haven't looked up that documentation. I'm typically buried in work at the Kerrville Police Department, working with our department and the Sheriff's Department, going after criminals. But I know that the Sheriff's Department has that unit that does that civil process for warrants, as well as the civil writs that come out of the courts, all courts. And all those guys work really hard to do that, and they're constantly busy. So I know that it's not just the JPs doing it.
Mr. Garza, is it true that most of the arrest warrants issued in the JP's court have been given to the sheriff's office to serve?
Yes, it's true. Now, is this question, for just this JP office or all the JP officers? Because I imagine all the...
They say JP3. I'm sorry, I didn't read that carefully. In the JP3 court.
Well, in the JP3 court, I guess all the arrest warrants go to the JP office. But I think, I may be incorrect, but I think all the JP offices send their warrants to the sheriff's office. But I do work the warrants in the JP office. Like I said, we have a program now that the judge has instituted where they have pre-warrant notices where before they go to warrant, I've been doing and going out and serving those pre-warrant notices and explaining to people what will happen if they don't take care of this matter, and contact the court. But like I said, as far as the warrants, they do go to the JP office, to the sheriff's office, but I think all the warrants of all the 4 JP offices go to the sheriff's office, not just the Precinct 1 and Precinct 3. I may be incorrect.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any more questions from the audience?
Yes, I have a question.
Would you write it? Would you write it? I'm sorry.
Sorry, I wrote it.
Sure. And the reason for making sure the questions are written is that way it's exactly fair to every candidate. It lets you be anonymous too, although this time Lucy won't be. Could I ask just a little placeholder question? You trust me? Oh, well, this one's ready. Can a constable investigate felony drug offenders? Will you, have you? This question should start with Mr. Garza.
Say again?
Can a constable investigate felony drug offenders? And will you and have you?
Yes, you could, but I haven't, because like I said, that's not my expertise. My function and duties, I've concentrated on what our main duty is to serve the courts, attend the courts, bailiff, and serve the civil and criminal process, And like I said before, law enforcement in Kerr County, in anywhere, we all have a function and a mission. Like I said, you have your sheriff's office, your city police, and your state officers. We all have a mission. We're all law enforcement officers. Our primary duty is the protection and preservation of the peace in our community. But we all have a mission. Like I said, as a constable, I try to focus on what the mission is the service of the civil process out of our county.
Thank you. Mr. Wilkie, can a constable investigate felony drug offenders? Have you and will you?
Yes, peace officers and constables who are peace officers can investigate felony drug cases. Yes, I will investigate felony drug cases. My son, my family, my wife have put it to me in the past. And I'm a hard worker. I don't give up. I work day and night. And it was suggested to me that instead of me working by myself, that I supplement all those others that are working in law enforcement, to include the sheriff's department, who has a great investigative unit. If you experience outside agencies, you would know that. If you ever had to deal with anybody else. So is the Kerrville Police Department. And so in that respect, yes, I will force multiply the Kerrville Police Department as a constable and the sheriff's office, both of those making and continuing to make felony drug cases.
Thank you. More? This one goes to you first, Mr. Wilkie. Do you think constables should be able to do off-duty security jobs using your vehicle and/or in your constable's uniform?
Never in your uniform unless it is a public event. Never in your unit unless it is a public event where you're working that in the capacity of a constable, meaning that the fair in Kerr County, the stock show, any public engagements where law enforcement needs to be present to preserve the peace. That's what you do at those functions. Should you profit from being a constable? No. I rarely, if ever, sometimes I'm made to work extra jobs and work security, okay? But it's because we need those officers out on the street, so.
Thank you. Mr. Garza, do you think constables should be able to do off-duty security jobs using your vehicle or in your constable's uniform?
No, and I have worked security jobs in my uniform, but I haven't used my vehicle. You know, at times we have worked, you know, public safety. Sometimes we had construction, and I did use my vehicle a few times, but the sheriff's office was also there, and the city police was also there, working some of these jobs. But I do work off-duty because I supplement my income. This is my only job that I have, and it has been my only job for the past 16 years. You know, I work off-duty on the weekends, you know, and you know, I don't see where that is an issue, you know, like I said.
And when you do those, you're wearing your uniform but not using the car.
Right, exactly.
This last question so far comes to you first. Isn't it your duty to serve warrants issued out of JP number 3?
Yes, and I have. And I have stacks of warrants, and, you know, you can speak to the judge. You know, I do serve the warrants, and I do, but I try to do it in a manner where I try to get them to pay the fines instead of putting them in jail.
Right. Excuse me, are you done?
Yes.
Excuse me. I was processing myself. This sounds to me like a little bit of a repeat question. Is it your duty to serve warrants issued out of JP3?
As a constable, it is your duty. It's all law enforcement officers' duty to serve warrants out of the JP's office or any judge's office. Because remember I said earlier, it's a shall, not you can. You shall serve this warrant and you shall arrest.
Are there any other questions? Thank you very much for this great participation. Right, and we'll go to our 1-minute summing up statements, and Mr. Garza goes first.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I came into this position when very few people knew what a constable was or did. But I saw it as an opportunity to work in law enforcement and to serve my community where I was born and raised. At the time when I was constable, there was very little support, resources, and pay. But I saw it as an opportunity to work in my community. And I haven't become rich, you know. I've lived modestly, and this has been my only position and job, but I try to work it as a friend of the people, the people's police officer. Now, I've made many friends, and I've talked to many people, and I feel like I've done a good job in this community. And I'm asking for your support and your vote to allow me to continue to do that, because I, in my heart, know I have done a good job. And I'm proud of what I've done here in Kerr County. This is my county, this is my home, this is what I want to stay and be as your constable. So I ask you to vote for me again for another term as your constable. Thank you very much.
Last off, I'd like to thank everybody again for attending. It's your participation and support that make these programs work and actually get people into office that you can rely and count on. If you vote for me, if I get your vote, I'll continue to work as hard as I do every day already. Law enforcement and working in law enforcement or any public safety is not a get-rich job. We don't make a hand or fist full of money. But we also work side jobs. I weld on the side, make a little extra money when I can, though that's few and far in between now because we have a lot of crime in Kerrville, and it is my responsibility to ensure that those cases are followed up on just like everyone else at the Kerrville Police Department and everyone at the Sheriff's Office, as well as the Constable's Office. So I will continue to work hard. You'll see me often and regular, and it will be in a good way. All right? Thank you for your time.
Thank you both, Mr. Wilkie and Mr. Garza, for taking your time to be here today, and thank all of you for coming.